The Pooniverse, or better known as the Twisted Childhood Universe, is a cinematic world of perverse horror retellings of classic fairy tales. It is no secret that I'm a big fan of this small-budget world. I love the horror genre and the stupid fun that goes into making monsters out of these iconic characters. Now, this world kicked off in 2023 with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which was a very humble beginning for what would be the birth of such a fun interconnectivity. With the success of its ridiculous concept, a sequel was greenlit, and we got a much bigger production budget of $1 million for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, which raked in 7 times its budget at the box office. Clearly there is an audience for these films, so the team behind the evil Pooh Bear movies decided to branch out into other fairy tales that are all interconnected within the same world. 2025 is a big year for this world. This year we have a zombie Bambi movie, evil Pinocchio, and an Avengers crossover type movie, all releasing. That brings us to the third installment of this franchise, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Peter Pan's classic tale is twisted into grotesque horror in Neverland Nightmare, dialing back the budget to roughly £300,000 but keeping the professionality of their previous $1 million movie. I mean it, this movie looks good. The camera work and tension is there, especially in the intro where we see Peter at the circus, creepily choosing his next victim. This movie gives Peter 2 different costume changes, the first one being a green striped shirt with clown face paint that we see only in flashbacks. This version of Peter was extremely inspired by Pennywise from the It franchise. Peter's demeanor and look was very much just Pennywise the Clown, all the way down to a somewhat recreation of the Georgie sewer scene, but with Peter under the floorboards inside of a child's home. The movie showcases Peter as this malevolent entity that actor Martin Portlock plays extremely well. He is creepy and ominous and wishes to take little boys to Neverland. Now at the beginning it's obvious, taking little kids to Neverland is just lingo for killing children, but I was hoping for a twist where Neverland maybe was an actual realm or place the movie would explore. Sadly, I found myself wanting more of the supernatural with this film than what they gave us, but that's for later in this review. During this aforementioned flashback, Peter is attempting to kidnap a child and gets his face fucked up by the victim's mother before he fucking scalps her. Yeah, this movie has some nasty gore in it as well. Time jumps forward 15 years and we get Peter's upgraded look, turning him from clown to some sort of marionette. Peter now wears his iconic green outfit and hat, but dons a creepy porcelain face to cover his scars. This is where Peter goes from Pennywise to the Joker for some reason. Seriously, his portrayal is straight up Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight. He even licks his scars when he talks. Peter is still on his child kidnapping bender and takes the brother to this world's version of Wendy from the classic tale. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Wendy's brother is a young boy who recently got a bike for his birthday and is embarrassed because he got a pink helmet. This same boy also only has one friend at school, who is also a boy, and they hold hands at lunch. Through a flashback, we also see Peter's first victim was a young boy who wanted to be a fairy and dressed feminine and had pink fingernails. Peter also mentions to the kidnapped boys that his mother treated him poorly as a child, so it seems Peter has an affection for certain victims. The movie also portrays his underlying sexual struggle with a gross scene of Peter Pan getting naked, revealing horrific body scars and a smooth surface where his dick should be, like a Ken doll. Now, as crazy as this sounds, I couldn't tell due to the lighting if Peter simply had no genitalia or if he had a vagina, but the point was made clear: he has a thing for feminine little boys and has self-mutilated to either become more feminine himself or maybe genderless. A whole can of crazy worms I did not expect to unpack in this movie. Obviously though, this is the horror twist to the Lost Boys of Neverland and why there were very scarce girls in the original Peter Pan story. Besides that stuff, the movie also showcased Peter as a drug addict. There is a drug in the movie that is seemingly just heroin, but is labeled as pixie dust. We find out that Tinkerbell is living with Peter in this dingy meth house and shoots up the pixie dust on the daily. Also, Tinkerbell is the first victim Peter took, the little boy who wanted to be a fairy, and has undergone most likely not safe surgeries because now the victim has breasts and other female attributes that I'm assuming Peter implemented himself with some rusty utensils. So we got Peter and Tink shooting up heroin, and that's where we get by far my favorite scene in the whole film. Peter is on a high and sees his shadow luring him to ride that crazy train and kidnap more kids. During this high, we see Peter levitate off the ground, a reference to his flying abilities from the book. The moment is cut short when Tink enters the room, only to see Peter standing on the ground looking up at the ceiling in his euphoric daze. This is where I'll bring up my supernatural complaint. Now, this is a universe where we have monstrous versions of the Winnie the Pooh cast, a zombie deer, and a living puppet, but Peter Pan's interpretation is just a heroin addict with a knife who has mommy issues. It's quite frankly lame. I was waiting for some crazy supernatural element or for a twist of literally anything. Maybe Neverland is real. Maybe Peter's shadow is a demon and is actually there, not just in his head. Maybe the crocodile from the children's story is in his basement and he feeds his victims to it. Anything at all would have elevated this entry so much more because we are delivered a grounded story of a drug addict child kidnapper. When compared to the other cast of killers in this universe, Peter is the least impressive. The movie doesn't have one bizarre twist. Hidden in Peter's basement is another victim that grew deformed and isolated and has a hook plunged into the stump where their hand should be. We got a Gollum-ized Captain Hook as the surprise. The final act of the movie is a bloody brawl between Peter and Wendy that ends up with Captain Hook dragging Peter to the basement as cop sirens approach the scene, which also reminded me of the ending of the previous movie where Christopher Robin beats Winnie and the cop sirens approach. I hope Bambi and Pinocchio have more unique endings, but after Wendy and her brother are safe and sound, we get the evil phone call of creepy music indicating Peter Pan survived somehow, and no end credit scene or setup or stay tuned for the next movie. Just the credits. I will say it felt like this movie took a step back in its fun horror while maintaining a professional quality. It was very much the love child of It and The Black Phone. I find myself enjoying the entry but more excited for the next projects after it. Once the Pooniverse movie drops later this year, I'll make a ranked video of all 6 films. Make sure you guys support the Twisted Childhood universe and subscribe to the channel to hear me talk about more movies and shows. Until the next hit of pixie dust, I hope you all have a great day.
Peter Pan.